All right, this is the second part of the review. In this case, we're going to go ahead and factor. In order to factor, we're going to go ahead and use the box method again. The first one goes in the first side. This one goes in the corner. And the -8 goes in the last one right here. Now we got to guess the two numbers that go here that will add together to give me this -2x. Now in order to do that, you're going to take the number in front of the x squared, which is 1, multiply it by -8, and find that that gives you -8. Now you have to find all the numbers that multiply to give you -8, which is 1 and -8 and 2 and -4. We find that by going a times c divided by x. So that'll be 1 times -8 divided by x. And here is a list of all the numbers that will multiply together to give you -8. And again, I've already given them to you, 1 and -8, 2 and -4. So if you know how to get the multiples by yourself, get the multiples by yourself right here. Or if you need to use a calculator, you take this number times the last number and divide it by x. And then it gives you this list anyways. So one of those is going to add together, give me -2. That's going to be these numbers right here. This is a 2. This is a -4. Once you get to this point, you see what they have the greatest common factor. In this case is x, and x times x is x squared, and x times -4 is -4x, and x times 2 is 2x. The factors there is x minus 4, x plus 2. The first time we've done that, we went ahead and check our answers. The way we do that is we go to the original equation and put that in y1, and then our factors, and we'll put that in y2. If all the numbers are the same, it's correct. If they're not, then it's different. Let's check. All right, here comes the table, and all the numbers are different, which means I made a mistake. So let's go back and see what I made a mistake at. All right, that's a +2. Remember, all the numbers have to be exactly the same for it to be equivalent. So that be the right answer. Now let's check it. All the numbers are the same. So this is the correct answer. Now let's do that again. We'll do that with number 3 now. Again, this is a factor, so it means we're going to draw a box. When you multiply, when you factor, you always draw a box. The first one goes in the first box. Middle one goes in the middle right here. And the last one goes in the last box. Now all we got to do is figure out the two numbers right here that will add together to give me that 5. And that's pretty easy. All you have to do is give the factors of 1 times -6. All right, 1 times -6 is -6. There's only two numbers to multiply to give you -6. 1 times -6 and 2 times -3. Now again, if you want to use your calculator, just go 1 times -6 divided by x. It will give you this list also. Now if I want to add those together, this one gives me -5. Now that's the right number, but the wrong sign. This is a -5. It's supposed to be a +5. So I just changed their sign. So that's a -1x and a +6x. Okay, these have an x in common. X times x is x squared. X times 6 is 6x. X times -1 is -6. The answer there is x plus 6, x minus 1. Let's try that again. Here comes number 2. Here's the box. This goes here. This goes here. This goes in here. 1 times -9. Again, this is going to give me -9. Use your calculator if you want to find the multiples of -9, or if you already know them, 1 times -9 and 3 times 3. And since this is negative, this is -3. The only one that will add to give me 0 will be this one. All right, these have an x in common. This is a -3, this is a 3. The answer is x minus 3, x plus 3. We're going to do one last one. Again, here's the box. This goes here. Second one goes here. Third one goes here. And then I need to find all the numbers multiplied to give me the -6. Let's use a calculator this time. 1 times negative 6 divided by x. And the numbers that multiply to give me negative 6 are 1 and negative 6, and 2 and negative 3. And here it starts repeating, so I don't need it anymore. They have to add together to give me 5. 1 plus negative 6 gives me negative 5. There's my answer, 1 and negative 6. And if you see what they have in common, both of these have the letter x, so x comes over here. And then x times x is x squared. X times negative 6 is negative 6x. And 1 times 6 is, the answer is x minus 6, x plus 1. All right, write an equation that has these solutions. This is really easy. When you get to this point, you just scratch this out and change the sign. Positive 4 becomes negative 4, and negative 5 becomes positive 5. There you go. Let's try it again. Whenever you have an equation, you have a solution, you want to go back to factored form. You just scratch out the equal signs. You don't need those anymore. And change the signs. Negative 8 just becomes positive 8, and positive 2 just becomes negative 2. How many solutions? In this case, again, the word solutions is wherever it crosses the x-axis or whatever value they give you. Since this is right there, it crosses at a negative 2. How many solutions? There's one of them. Justify, it crosses the x-axis once. What are the solutions? They're just negative 2. Let's go to the next one. How many solutions are here? Again, it crosses the x-axis at 2 spots, so it's going to be 2 solutions. 2 x-intercepts. What are they? It crosses right there at negative 2, and it crosses again at positive 4. The length of a swimming pool. So again, whenever they're asking for the length, we can use the letter L. So that's for length. The length is 4 times, we'll use parentheses for that, the width. The area is 256. So now what we have to do is we have to write an equation here. So the best way to do that is to draw a rectangle just like that. We'll call this one the width. We'll call this one the length. And we already have the length. The length is 4W, so I'm going to erase the letter L and put 4W right here. And now I have everything I need. To get the area, you're going to take the length, multiply by the width, and that should give you equals to the area. Again, the width is W. The length is 4W. Length times width equals the area. So that gives me the equation. Now, how do I find that in the calculator? Really easy. Go to calculator. We know that 4W times W equals 256. But the calculator doesn't like the letter W, so we use X. 4X times X equals 256. So we'll go to the table and look for 256. And it looks like it's right there at 8. So the letter W is actually 8. All right. Let's write the answers down. The width is 8. The length is 4 times 8, which is 32. An equation, we just worked it out, which is 4W times W equals 256. Now, if you want to clean up the equation a little bit, W times W is W squared. And to move the 256 from one side to the other, you subtract it, which gives you a final equation of 4W squared minus 256. Now, this is prettier, but they're both correct. In this case, we want to see if you guys can solve this using a graph or a table. So let's go ahead and graph it real quick. We have x squared plus 4x. Now, the trick is really simple. Wherever it says it's equal to, you're going to look for this in the y. This is what I did a second ago with the rectangle and the width and the length. The number I'm looking for again is negative 3. And it's right there at negative 1. All right, now usually there's supposed to be 2 answers. Let's see if we can find the next one. All right, doesn't look like it's going to be over here. So we'll check it out in the graph right there. Wherever y, that's y, -3, it's right here at -1. And it looks like right here, right after -3. So I would say x equals -1, and x equals -3.2. Kind of approximated right there. But the main thing here is to know how to do it using a graph and how to do it using a table. Again, let's see how to do that real quick. When it's in a graph, you locate this number. On the y. This is the y-axis. Here's -3. And wherever it touches the graph, those are your 2 solutions right there. If in the table, you look in a table, wherever you see a -3 at, the number in front of it is your solution. The parabola is given those intercepts. Which ones are the zeros and the roots? Actually, the word zero, the word roots, both means x-intercept. The best way to do this is by just graphing it. I'm sorry, putting it in the table, just looking at it. Again, if we're looking for the x-intercept, we're looking for wherever the 0 points towards the x section. These 2 right there are x-intercepts. So what are the zeros? X equals -6 and x equals 4.5. The word roots is the same exact thing as zeros. The only other one is this one right here. When I draw the arrow from the 0, it's pointing towards the y. This is a y-intercept. That one's not necessary. It's not, our zeros is not our root. What are the zeros and x-intercepts in this function? Again, all you have to do is just graph it and look at the picture. 2x squared minus x minus 15. And again, wherever the x-intercepts are, there's your answer. Again, sometimes we have to approximate because it's not exactly where it needs to be. 1, 2, 3. That one's where it needs to be. 1, 2. Now that looks like -2.75. On the test, you're going to have to approximate as well. The area of a triangle given by this equation, 4h squared minus 3h equals 40. Again, the trick to these is really easy. Wherever it says not equal to 0 equals to any other number, this is what we're going to look for. We're always going to look for that on the y. So we can use a graph or the table. Now the calculator doesn't like h, so we can use x squared minus 3x. And we're going to look on a table. And the number I'm looking for is 40. Oh, there it is. But remember, we're talking about height here. Height can't be negative. And this is a quadratic equation, which means it's going to have 2 answers. So let me see if I can find 40 anywhere else. There it is, 8. Every time that you work with quadratic equations, you're going to get 2 answers. And since they're talking about a height, it can't be negative. The height is the positive answer. All right, let's check these out. What you want to do is you want to take it out from the vertex form and make it into a standard form. The way to do that is to remember to always follow PEMDAS. The exponent comes before multiplication. So we do the exponent first. We multiply by 2 second. And then we subtract third. So it has to be in that order. I'm going to repeat that real quick. You're going to have to do x minus 5 first. Then after that, you multiply by this 2, and then you subtract by 16. So as long as you do it in the right order, this works out. We'll start off with x minus 5 squared, and that's pretty easy. Again, equations, when they multiply, you don't just distribute the square. You actually multiply using a box. So it ends up being x squared minus 10x plus 25. That's the square. Now we'll go to the second part, which is multiplying it by 2, which ends up gives me 2x squared minus 20x plus 50. All I did is multiply it like that. And the last part is when you subtract by 16. And you do that at the end. And again, 50 take away 16 is your answer. Okay? Let's do it one more time. Again, the trick between switching between these two forms is to remember which one goes first. We're going to do the square first. So this is x minus 3 times x minus 3. And again, this gives me these two add. So I'm going to end up with x squared minus 6x plus 9. That's the first part. After you do the squared, the exponent, then you do the multiplication. In this case, we're multiplying by negative 3. If you multiply this out, you end up with negative 3x squared minus 18x minus 27. Now, once we get to that part, that's when we do the third part next, which is adding 12. Final answer is negative 3x squared minus 18x minus 15. All right, now we're going to go ahead and work this out. What they're looking for right here are the roots. So we're looking for this number on the y. Here's the y. Here's the first one. Here's the second one. Answer is negative 4 and positive 1. In this case, again, all we have to do is solve it. What are we looking for? This number on the y. So 2x squared minus 6x. Minus 50. All right, here's the first one. X equals 7. And there's a second one right here in the negative section. And that's in front of negative 4. All right, in this case right here, we have to go ahead and find a solution, which means we take this and just make it equal to 0. Subtract 3 from both sides. Add 7 to both sides. Now this one also has a 2, so we divide by 2. Final answer is x equals 7 over 2, and x equals negative 3. Let's try that again. We're going to go ahead and just make them both equal to 0. And again, we're just going to go ahead and get rid of that 5 by subtracting 5 on both sides. And then divide by 2. Here we're going to add 4 to both sides. And then divide by 3. All right. In this case right here, we've already talked about these. You just scratch this out and change the sign. All right, solve by a square root method. This is really simple. Get the number on one side, get the x squared on the other side. So we just add 100 to both sides. We get x squared equals 100. And when the x squared is by itself, we do the opposite of a square, which is a square root. These cross out. You end up with x equals positive and negative 10. So remember, whenever you use the square root sign, you have to put a plus or minus in front of it. Let's try it again over here. Plus 60 on both sides. And then when I square root it, you get a x equals, because these two cancel out, plus or minus 8. In this case right here, the x squared is on both the x and the 10. So I can't get rid of that plus 10 because the x squared on top of it, I have to get rid of the x squared first. So again, the opposite of a square is a square root. These cross out. You end up with x minus 10 equals positive and negative 6. Now, that makes it a little bit harder because we have two answers here. We have x minus 10 equals to positive 6 and x minus 10 equals to negative 6 because we have both of them. So we have to have two separate equations. But they're easily solved. The first one's x equals 16. And the other one's x equals to 4. All right, whenever you want to have the quadratic formula, you need to find the a, b, and c values. And you have to put them into the quadratic formula. Negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. There's only one thing you have to be careful of, though, is that you have the a, b, c values in the correct order. In this case, you realize that there's somebody on the wrong side. We're going to have to move the 2 to the other side. So we subtract 2 from both sides. Now we have 9x squared minus 3x subtract 2 equals to 0. It has to be like that or we can't start. This is your a, this is your b, this is your c. A is 9. B is negative 3, C is negative 2. Now that we have our A, B, and C, all we have to do is remove all the letters and replace them with parentheses. This is for A, and this is for C. So again, I just replaced all the letters with their values in parentheses. And then I just take out my calculator and plug it in. Exactly like I see it. First thing I do is I erase this to make it look pretty. That didn't work. All right, all you have to do is go alpha y equal to enter and create a fraction. Why? Because this is a fraction. Then I just type it in exactly like I see it, negative 3. Plus or minus, I can't do plus or minus at the same time. So I'm going to start by doing plus, then I'll do minus. Square root. Times 9 times negative 2. Over 2 times 9. And if you press enter, the first answer is 2/3. And now I go second enter, types it up one more time. And I'll go back and change that to a minus sign because remember I said plus or minus. I've already got the plus. I'm going to do the minus. There it is. And the answer there is negative 1/3. All right, he wanted to solve it. Again, you have to realize everybody's on the right side. That's correct. This is A, this is B, this is C. So the formula is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Step 1 is get rid of the letters and replace them with parentheses. All right, this is a b. B is negative 5. Negative becomes positive 5. Okay, we're good so far. Negative 5 squared, that's good. 2 times 2, all over 2. First step is great. Now, they went ahead and did the second step, and they did it slowly at this time. But if you realize negative 5 squared becomes actually positive 25. Well, over here it says negative 25. They made a mistake at step 2. Let's solve for p. Again, we have 6p squared equals m. And same concept, get the letter by itself. So let's divide by 6 first. P squared is equal to m over 6. And in order to get rid of a square, you have to use a square root. So these cross out, we end up p equals the square root, plus or minus, of m over 6. Just like that. Same thing right here. Let's get rid of that k because we want to get p by itself. And notice the k is just kind of cross out. So we have p squared just equals to 5. And opposite of a square is a square root. And p is just equal to positive and negative square root of 5. And that's it. Good luck on your test.